The upcoming fight between Adrien Broner and Chris Broner is a true one-of-a-kind throwback. Not only are we seeing the talented but highly troubled welterweight boxer Adrien Broner come back for a fight past his prime, but we're also seeing something few probably saw coming. He was the first black man to dominate a major industry in the United States with the chokehold. He is the infamous Don King. Still larger than life as ever, he's determined to continue promoting at the age of 92, and he's decided that the best way to celebrate his 92nd is by backing a past his prime boxer that's equally troubled as him. But the fight has eluded them both throughout 2023, and after more than a month into 2024, it still has no signs of materializing. Before it all goes down, let's unpack this. Adrien Broner yearns for the spotlight once more. Despite having a ring name later in life as accurate to his real name as The Problem, boxing was the best way for 6-year-old Adrien Broner to stay away from crime. Adrien Broner was born on July 28, 1989 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Growing up, he found himself an angry child, getting into fights and arguments a lot, no doubt shaped by the circumstances of his living in a less than ideal neighborhood. His mother was extremely supportive of his boxing practice and was glad that he put his anger to use productively. As it would later be seen, however, it didn't stop him from his controversial actions later in life. But either way, boxing was indeed crucial for the development of young Adrien Broner. To this day, he credits boxing for keeping him away from going down the path of being a gangbanger. He doubled down on boxing and he went on to have a long and successful amateur career. He had a total of 319 fights, with the record of 300 wins and 19 losses. He was a National Silver Gloves champion in 2002 and 2003. And a National Junior Olympics semifinalist in 2005. Still, Cincinnati in those years was a brutal place to be, and Broner has admitted to being involved in delinquent activity throughout his teenage years, right alongside his time in the boxing gym. He faced serious prison time at the age of 17, shortly before he went pro. Had he been issued this sentence, he would have never had a professional career that, despite all its fails, still made him a millionaire today. He turned pro in 2008 and quickly went to work climbing the ladder intensely in the first 2 years. His 2010 victory over Carlos Claudio was a significant first step towards the stardom that would grace him in the early to mid-2010s, as he captured the WBC Youth Intercontinental Super Featherweight belt. 2011 would see him in one of his most successful years, with back-to-back wins against John Ravish, Daniel Ponce de Leon, and finally a third-round KO of Vicente Martin Rodriguez. All these fights added belts to his collection, finally ending with the WBO World Super Featherweight belt. Further defenses and the capturing of the WBO lightweight and WBA welterweight world titles in 2013 would see him at the very peak of his career. Shortly after winning the welterweight belt and taking it from Paulie Malignaggi, the cracks would start to appear. 2005 loss to Sean Porter and the 2017 loss to Mike Garcia had a whole menagerie of controversies and missed opportunities for him that really sent his career down a nosedive. His 2016 fight against Ashley Theophane saw him fail to make weight in time, leading to him being disqualified for his belt and leave the title for Theophane only. While he claimed a victory against Theophane, the damage was done already. 2019 saw him matched up against none other than Manny Pacquiao. Predictably, he lost, and he was never going to be world champion in any category ever again. Since losing to Pacquiao, he's only had 2 fights in 2021 and 2023. Yes, he's had absolutely no fights in 2020 and 2022. As of June 9, 2023, Broner's last fight was against Bill Hutchison, which he won via a 10-round unanimous decision, leading directly to him joining forces with none other than the disgraced Don King. Throughout his career, his titles include the WBO Super Featherweight title from 2011 to 2012, the WBC Lightweight title from 2012 to 2013, the WBA Welterweight title in 2013, and the WBA Light Welterweight title from 2015 to 2016. For a man who has held multiple world championships in 4 weight classes, it was a shockingly sharp and sad end. Of course, there's no taking away the fact that he's still a millionaire who can live comfortably until the end of his days. But nothing can change the fact that he's been a case of tragic wasted potential, considering the fact that he was truly on top of the world from 2010 to early 2013. A summary of his controversies. After his first loss to Marco Maidana in 2013 and the subsequent slip-ups, There were many who still held firm in the belief that he would turn himself around and fulfill himself as the natural successor of Floyd Mayweather Jr. Both men fought quite similarly, and Broner himself had the braggadocio and the stage charisma to match. Today, however, many believe that he was simply overhyped back then, and that he bought into his own lie pretty much. The super featherweight and lightweight divisions weren't filled with quality fighters back then compared to today, and Broner seems to have let it go to his head. When he regularly fell into a bad light for things such as missing weight and falling into high-profile losses, people started to realize that he wasn't much of a champion at all. His fluctuating weight between fights and rumors of undisciplined training practices contradicted the image of a disciplined champion. His antics included getting drunk and being a public nuisance in 2014, assaulting and robbing a mutual friend in 2016, assaulting a fan in 2017, sexual assault in 2018, and parole violation in 2021. All of these things encourage people to retroactively brand his constant trash-talking and onstage arrogance as a total fraud. And we're also sure many were slapping themselves for ever thinking he was anything resembling a successor to Floyd Mayweather Jr. Jonathan Snowden, writing about his 2016 arrest for assault, wrote the following for Bleacher Report. Broner wasn't competitive against Maidana and looked like a sleepwalker for much of the fight against Porter. Normally, a young fighter on the losing end of two lackluster high-profile bouts would be tossed into the dustbin of history. Instead, because of his penchant for creating chaos, he's promoted in the fashion usually reserved for much more accomplished fighters. Some athletes like Mayweather are motivated by an internal desire to be great. Fame and fortune are a benefit that comes along with excellence. For Broner, it seems, fame was the goal. Right before his parole violation, he was forced to declare bankruptcy in 2020, and he was a complete mess, including mental health issues. These cost him some scheduled fights in 2021 and 2022 that could have served as an opportunity to make a comeback. But in 2021, the victory over Jones Santiago really ensured that a lot of bile would be thrown at him, in a fight that was universally condemned as lousy, with an undeserved win handed over to Broner to top it all off. Needless to say, him pairing up with someone like Don King to rescue him makes perfect sense. It's highly doubtful that any other manager would have taken him in after all that. Adrien Broner's fighting style. Of course, Adrien Broner achieved fame and riches early in his career thanks to the fact that he fought much like Floyd Mayweather Jr. He wasn't hailed as his successor back then for no reason early on. He developed into a good counterpuncher, utilizing his speed and flair to deliver timely power shots that were responsible for many of his knockout wins. But he was obviously never quite there in terms of the defensive skill set required to really be Floyd Mayweather. His career early on saw him adapt a forward pressure fighting approach that did prove to be much of great use against the fighters he was getting matched with. It seems apparent such a strategy would have worked against the super featherweight and lightweight fighters of today, who pack more technical skill than Broner did at his peak. While he did develop a more defensive stance and temperament later on, it was too late. He turned into a truly lousy boxer, and the showing he put up against Jones Santiago in 2021 cemented his reputation as a has-been in present times. His toughness, conditioning, stamina, and the overall ability to take hits and keep going waned off too. The old Broner shows up at times, primarily through effective counterpunching and combination interruptions that do get the better of his opponents in limited occasions. But now in 2024 with his age, it's never going to be the same again. Don King's return. Don King needs no introduction if you've been a boxing fan for a while. Well known for cheating the fighters he managed in the 20th century, alongside none other than Mike Tyson and his association with organized crime. For all his faults, including a manslaughter charge and hostile business practices, he did turn himself into one of the most successful and famous boxing promoters of all time. After all, he's the one responsible for promoting two of the most legendary boxing fights, the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thriller in Manila. These matches launched his career, and he went on to promote over 500 championship fights. King has also promoted some of the most prominent names in boxing, including Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Roberto Duran, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Julio Cesar Chavez, Ricardo Mayorga, Andrew Galota, Bernard Hopkins, and so on. While he made great inroads in the sport for black fighters and managers that followed him in the sport, he ultimately became one of the worst personifications, and he caused many black boxers harm. He ultimately came to blows with Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, etc., all of whom accused him of defrauding them. Indeed, his defrauding of Mike Tyson remains a prominent blot in the history of boxing. Larry Holmes claimed King shortchanged him by $300,000 for his 1980 title defense against Jerry Cooney, a fight that King promoted by trying to create as much racial hostility between the black champion and white challenger as possible. Despite the challenges, King remained a figure in the boxing world. His unique personality, flamboyant style, and past successes kept him in the public eye. But the sport learned from his mistakes, and the promoting game is not the same. Oscar De La Hoya, for example, will not be retiring with a talented legacy as a promoter, unlike him. But he doesn't care. Doing well for someone aged 92, he's been looking to make a comeback by supporting a boxer that can claim a title. So when it was announced that he'd be teaming up with Adrien Broner, few were surprised. The ever self-aggrandizing Don King explained. Adrien Broner can fight, King said. What impressed me is his ability and capability to win 4 titles separately and distinctively. His record has spoken for himself. And the little naughty things he does outside the ring, they've condemned him. I've been told, don't touch him because he's nothing but trouble. Don't help him. Don't do nothing with him. Well, they don't know that trouble is my middle name. Everything I've done has been nothing but trouble. So it's on that note that he and Broner have both been trying to take a fight in 2023, let alone a title bout that would allow Don King to feel like he's living in the 1970s and 80s again. No one seems to be interested in either taking a fight or sanctioning a fight for him, considering Chris Howard became the latest to drop out before Broner started trash-talking Devin Haney. Bill Haney, Devin Haney's dad, turned it down rather cruelly by saying that he'd be commenting on his son's fight before Broner ever got a chance to fight him. And yes, Adrien Broner is back to his old trash-talking self, hounding others down and trying to goad the current lightweight bracket into taking a fight against him. 2 toxic personalities are indeed working with synergy. Even though boxing has long since moved on from the way it was during Don King's heyday, there's no doubt that a high-profile bout between Adrien Broner backed by him would sell PPVs like hotcakes. This would simply be by way of his image and the fact that he's still kicking past 92. But it remains to be seen whether any good boxer with self-respect is going to take them seriously to begin with. But what do you think? Can Adrien Broner go out in a last hurrah of sorts? Or will the sands of time put him and Don King both in the coffin? Leave us a like and subscribe. We'll see you again when the dust settles on the canvas.